Compassion as a hierarchy is inexplicable to me. Welcome to the Hen Report from Our Hen House. I'm Jasmin Singer.
I'm Mariann Sullivan.
And it is very exciting to be here today. We have a lot to discuss. One of the exciting things is that we have a sponsorship that we want to tell you about that we're excited about because it's something near and dear to our hearts. So if you've ever wondered how you can turn your passion for animals into a career that creates lasting change, and I know you have because that's partly why you're here, Vermont Law and Graduate School may be able to help you make it a reality. The Animal Law and Policy Institute at Vermont Law and Graduate School is home to one of the nation's leading animal law programs, preparing the next generation of advocates to shape laws, influence policy, and protect animals. And Mariann, we always say to each other, not when we're recording only, how much animal law is having a moment right now. And certainly
I don't know whether it's just me, because obviously it's my area of interest. But I just feel like law is really where it's at the moment. It's like there's a lot of other things that are very, very frustrating. And of course, law is always frustrating. But people I don't know, it just seems like there are avenues for real change there. And it's not divided. Like people just, I really love the fact in the law that you look for an opening and you take it. You don't have to decide philosophically what your theory of change is, even though I consider that very important in advocacy. In law, you don't have to. You're just looking for a chance to make a change and you do it. And I think that's very valuable at this moment when people's theories of changes are all over the lot. Anyway, that's not part of her announcement from Vermont Law School.
No, but
I don't want to tie them into that.
It's important. And whether you're pursuing a law degree with a concentration in animal law LLM, a graduate certificate in animal protection policy, or a master's degree in animal protection policy, you'll gain the knowledge and the practical skills to tackle some of the biggest challenges facing animals today. I also think it's a deeply satisfying road to go down if you are passionate about changing the world for animals. So you can learn from nationally recognized faculty, engage with real-world legal and policy issues, and join a community dedicated to advancing meaningful protections for farmed animals, wildlife, companion animals, and animals used in research and entertainment. Your career could take you so many places, to nonprofit advocacy organizations, government agencies, policy-making roles, litigation, academia, or really anywhere that you can help create a more just future for animals. So if you're ready to discover what's possible through the Animal Law and Policy Institute with degrees that can be earned residentially or online at Vermont Law and Graduate School, visit vermontlaw.edu/animal law to learn more and start building a career that advances legal protections for animals.
Don't you feel like it's the time?
Oh, yeah.
Like things are going to, I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous because everything's such a disaster at the moment, but change is in the air. We have to make sure that some of that change happens for animals.
I think it's like an unbelievably exciting time to be changing the world for animals.
And terrifying.
Well, those two usually go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do.
So before we get to some examples of that, just a quick reminder about the Our Hen House podcasts. We are on the air multiple times a week. So Rising Anxieties comes out on Tuesdays, the Hen Report, which is this, on Thursdays, and the long form interview comes out on Fridays. Bonus for Flock members comes out on Mondays. Remember, you could listen to us, you could watch us, you could do both at the same time. We're on YouTube. We are also on any podcatcher where you like to listen to podcasts. So please hit subscribe, hit like, comment wherever you listen. Okay, there's some updates we have for you today, and we're starting off with good news. And I know, when do we ever start off with good news? So let's really savor this one. We're probably all familiar with the Save Our Bacon Act, but I'm going to just kind of revisit a few things that you might already know. On August 6th, the Senate Agriculture Committee met to mark up the Farm Bill, and here's what happened. Nothing. The committee did not pass a farm bill. And crucially, the so-called Save Our Bacon Act was left out of the legislation entirely. It did not, as Sarah Amundsen of the Humane World Action Fund put it, see the light of day. And if you're new here, this might be new for you, and welcome to our hen house, by the way. So let me just briefly catch you up on what the Save Our Bacon Act actually is, because the name is doing a lot of work, and
The name is
we
so annoyingly and hideously offensive. Just sorry, just
no, totally.
editorializing.
This is the pork industry's latest attempt to use the federal farm bill to wipe out state level farm animal protection laws. And so we're talking about laws like California's Prop 12 and Massachusetts's, that's really hard to say, Question 3, which is laws that voters passed that give a pregnant pig enough room to, turn around. That's the radical agenda that we're dealing with here, room to turn around. And the thing that gets me is that this is not a new fight, and we talk about this all the time. Like, we keep circling around these same issues, and Congress has been rejecting this exact play for nearly like 2 decades. The King Amendment failed in 3 separate farm bill debates. Then the EATS Act failed, and now it's the Save Our Bacon Act on the ropes.
Never ends.
Never
and
ends.
They tried to get to go to the Supreme Court to also a different legal tactic to have Prop 12 held unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court said, this Supreme Court said, nah, it's fine. Oh, but they won't give up the pork industry. They're very relentless.
And by Humane World Action Fund's count, that's at least 6 failures. 6. So, yeah, I mean, at what point does the pork lobby look in the mirror?
Well, they're not going to give up. And I'm not saying we're going to win. Right. So this is a good development. But they're just coming back. When they come back from recess, they're going to be reconsidering a farm bill. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what exchanges are going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. So, yeah.
Yeah. If they could call us,
it ain't over.
Well, and I want to read to you what Sarah Amundsen said, because I think she nailed it. She said that committee members, and by the way, this includes Chairman John Boozman, who's a Republican, and Ranking Member Amy Klobuchar, who's a Democrat, quote, wisely chose not to cave to the stubborn faction of the pork industry that keeps losing, just to reopen the same debate and allow more animal cruelty. That's not agriculture policy, she says. That's special interest politics at its worst. Now, special interest politics at its worst. Hold on to that phrase, because it's going to come back in a big way in our next story. Spoiler alert. But yeah, so Mariann, what do you think? You've watched this preemption fight through every one of its incarnations.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they're not going to win. I'm saying that they had a big setback, and I hope they're not going to win. But I don't know. I will say that this was a really well coordinated effort by the animal protection movement, like all different entities within the animal protection movement. And I was happy to see that people really worked on this. This took a lot of lobbying, a lot of hard work, a lot, I feel like it was a very sophisticated effort on the part of our movement. And I am really happy to see that. I think it bodes well for the future.
Totally. But okay, here's where the episode gets kind of complicated, because when I tell you who helped kill the Save Our Bacon Act, who was out there working to defeat a bill that, let's remember, was a Republican bill, the list includes Tomi Lahren, Laura Loomer, Mike Cernovich, Republican Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, and I don't know if you just did a spit take into your coffee, which I would have, but I just finished my coffee. This is our next story. So the New Republic just published a piece with a headline.
So good.
Yeah. And the headline is How MAGA Stole Animal Rights from the Left. Subtitle, And How We Can Steal It Back. I have so many feelings. So let's just walk through this together.
I just want to mention, this is by Aaron Regenberg and Astor Taylor, who I don't think has been on the podcast, but her sister has, Sonora Taylor. And Astor Taylor, I've always had my eye on her. She does amazing work, not exclusively on animal stuff, but yeah, this is an amazing article.
Yeah, let's walk through it together, because I personally think this might be the most important and perhaps the most uncomfortable conversation happening in our movement right now.
I'm not uncomfortable. I'm fine.
Okay, good to know. Mariann's fine. The piece opens with Ridglan Farms, and obviously that name is going to ring a bell because Ridglan is the dog breeding and research facility in Wisconsin. You already know about it if you've been paying attention to our hen house anyway, and certainly animal protection news. They breed beagles because beagles are docile and eager to please. which is
Oh,
so
they
heartbreaking.
used to.
Used to. And in March, activists went in and started this huge sort of domino effect of liberation. They liberated 22 beagles, and then in April, like 1,000 people came for this attempted mass open rescue of more than 2,000 dogs still inside. And like long story short, all of the dogs have now been released. And
Though a lot of activists are still facing very serious charges.
yeah, yeah. But
Let's not forget that.
no, absolutely. But 2,000 dogs are alive and out of cages. And RFK Jr. and Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins put out a joint video taking credit for it as a major win for animal welfare.
Mm-hmm.
Now let that sink in, because I can already hear half of you like yelling at me through the YouTube machine or whatever you're listening to this. I'm yelling too. This is, of course, the same administration.
I don't know why. I don't think anybody's yelling.
You don't?
Like, if people want to agree on an issue, even if they disagree on many other issues, I don't mind strange bedfellows. That's
No,
how
I don't.
things
I
get
don't
done.
either. I agree.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm not saying that means I agree with RFK Jr. on everything or virtually anything, but if we agree on this, and of course this is specific people in the right and specific issues. I mean, they're certainly not on board on every animal issue, but this one, yeah.
I'm down with strange bedfellows. Maybe I'm not hearing people yelling. Maybe I'm hearing their eye muscles rolling. Maybe there are just so many eyeballs rolling right now that it's making that it's loud. Because this is the same administration that just rolled back the Endangered Species Act. They went to the Supreme Court to shield these glyphosate manufacturers from liability. RFK Jr., as you know, promotes the carnivorous diet like big time. Right. And the article is very clear-eyed about it. It calls out they call it the fundamental incoherence and hypocrisy of the rights relationship to animal welfare. Now, remember, as I just said,
welcome to the real world where virtually everybody except us has a completely cockamamie attitude towards animals. I mean,
yeah,
it's par for the course. People make no sense when it comes to animals.
So remember, the Save Our Bacon Act that we were just talking about is a Republican bill. Some animals, like the beagles and the bald eagles and the pet squirrels, some animals still get compassion. And, it's crazy because billions...
it makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Compassion as a hierarchy is inexplicable to me. Some animals matter because they're ours and everyone else is expendable. But that's kind of why our hen house started nearly 17 years ago. But here's the part of this piece that I actually think is a headline.
It's a great piece. Everybody should read it.
Yeah. But here's the part that I think actually is a headline, and it really matters to me. It's not about the right at all. So I was kind of terrified when I saw that headline, I admit. And then I realized it's about us. It's about the left. I mean, listen to the numbers.
Not about us. About the
progressive people. Yes. And over 85% of Republicans and Democrats agree that animal testing should be phased out. 8 out of 10 voters consider preventing farm animal cruelty a moral concern. 72% say that they're more likely to vote for a candidate who protects endangered species. These aren't fringe numbers. These are huge, giant mainstream numbers. And it's weird because when 1,000 people showed up in Wisconsin for one of these the largest direct actions against a corporate animal facility in my memory, it was covered by mainstream outlets and right-wing outlets, but it barely registered in liberal and left media.
I read that in this article, and somehow I hadn't realized that until I heard it. And it's just a disgrace.
It's a disgrace. And Justin Marceau, who is, of course, an animal law professor and a friend of the Our Hen House world, where is he at again?
University of Denver.
Yeah. Okay, he put it this way. Democrats, quote, view people who care about animals as a fringe subset of people who care about climate. They seem to think it's just not a constituency that they could lose. I think they're wrong about that. And there's also an anonymous activist quoted in this piece who said something that really got me going. They said, and I'm cleaning it up slightly here. If you tell people to buzz off enough times, they're going to buzz off. And that's what the left has been doing to animal rights activists for decades. Oof. Because haven't we all felt that? I mean, that assumption that caring
Totally.
about animals is a lifestyle quirk, it's a distraction from the quote real
It's
fight.
unserious.
It's not worth it's not worth
Totally.
our time.
This article really spoke to me.
Yeah, I mean that zero sum framing is so separate from reality that it's mind-boggling to me. Industrial agriculture is corporate consolidation. It is worker exploitation. It is immigrant exploitation and environmental destruction. Fighting for animals is not a detour from fighting the oligarchy. It's the same fight.
The whole, also, you even see this within the animal protection movement, I think. This whole image of American farmers as sort of small business people who were just trying to survive in a difficult, that it's ridiculous. This is a huge corporate enterprise controlled by money. Frequently, they are family farms because they're owned by one very, very, very rich person who has a family. I know
Right.
I say that all the time.
She has a family.
But it drives me crazy.
Well, it's this
It drives me
shorthand.
crazy. Like I said, you even see this within the animal protection movement, acting like the farmers are sort of just victims. They're not. They're the landed gentry. They own most of the land and they own most of the animals, and they're making a lot of money.
And weirdly,
Not all of them. I'm not saying there are no small farmers.
well, it's
Most
it
of
is
them.
this shorthand that people kind of hide behind, and it doesn't mean very much. And what I think is weird is that the sharpest one-liner in the article came from a conservative, Liam Gray of the Wilberforce Institute, who said that the divide on animals is feeling less like left versus right and more like people versus special interests. Which didn't we
Exactly.
just hear that? Because that's Sarah
Exactly.
Amundsen's Farm Bill quote from the other direction. I mean, when Tommy Lauren and the Humane World Action Fund are accidentally saying the same sentence, something's moving. I mean, Marianne,
Let
what do
me
you
let me
think?
finish. I don't know whether you have the rest of that quote before you, but I happen to highlight that quote
Okay,
as
go
well. And I'm
ahead.
going to just give the next sentence. And the more that Democrats don't respond to that and side with the special interests and take for granted that they have the animal people behind them, I think the more it's going to hurt them. And that is the truth. They take us for granted. They think
Yeah.
that people either we're basically liberal minded and we won't vote on the animal issue, we'll just ignore it, or that we'll just think that, well, they're not as bad as the Republicans. Well, that day is over. Like, people have to start trying to get the support of animal people.
Marianne, the piece ends with Marceau saying that the best case scenario is that the movement on the right awakens the left to animals. Do you buy that? Or are we watching compassion get weaponized in a way that we'll regret?
No, I mean, I don't know whether I buy it. I agree with him that it's the best case scenario. I think it could happen. I think we are in a moment where people are ready to think outside the box, and that box, is a box in which people never look out of to see what's really going on with animals, and so I'm not going to say no, that's ridiculous, because I hope it's true.
Well, if you want proof that this strange bedfellows moment is producing actual structural change and not just viral beagle content, our last story is it, because The Economist, not
Right.
exactly a
Same
vegan
deal. Yeah.
zine, just published a piece on the bipartisan coalition taking aim at animal research itself. So The Economist ran a piece in early August, how a bipartisan coalition is taking aim at animal research. And the fact is that this story is in The Economist's science section. And that
Yeah.
tells you how mainstream it's become.
Yeah, and we
So
have talked about this. I mean, in bits and pieces, but this really brings it all together. And from outside the movement perspective, just them noticing, well, something's going on here.
by the way, my 18-and-a-half-year-old Chihuahua is downstairs barking, agreeing that something is going on here. So I
I
apologize if you're
can't.
hearing.
I
Okay,
actually
good.
can't hear him, so
All
I don't
right.
think anybody else
So
can.
here's the shape of the article. You've got progressives and mainstream Democrats who've cared about animals in labs forever, and that they're now joined by these right-wing populists and the MAGA movement who frame animal testing as government waste and government overreach. So that's like, I don't know. What does that look like concretely? Bipartisan bills targeting these painful NIH experiments on dogs and cats, legislation to let lab animals actually retire to sanctuaries, to homes instead of being killed when the study ends. The EPA has a goal of fully replacing animal testing by 2035. The NIH has put $87 million into developing non-animal research methods. The FDA has a published roadmap to phase out animal testing. Federal labs are scaling down primate research and research on dogs and cats. Universities are feeling this scrutiny and starting to move away from animal-dependent pipelines on their own. And our buddy RFK Jr., okay, not our buddy, has even met with PETA about converting NIH-backed primate research centers into sanctuaries. And reportedly, the NIH has actually followed up. I mean, this is
an interesting development, and I think there are a lot of dangers here. And it's again like, I mean, because the MAGA movement or the MAHA movement can be very anti-science, and I don't like the anti-science bent, and I don't like the anti-vax bent and everything. But that is a big movement, and for years and years and years, the research industry has just ignored animal activists, ignore the fact that it isn't just a bunch of PETA subscribers who are horrified here. Like, it's virtually everybody there is a huge constituency out there for being against the horrible things they do to animals, and wanting them to clean up their act as much as they can. And they have ignored that. They have been hostile. They have been just obstructive. They have acted like animal activists are the enemy. And, now it's coming home to roost. I have mixed feelings about this because I don't like the whole anti-science bent. I just like the anti-experimentation on animals. And if they need to be spending a lot more time on finding those alternatives, which, instead of fighting them.
But a huge driver here isn't ethics. It is science. I mean, they're called the new approach methods, or NAMs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Organoids, organs on chip,
That's
on a
what
chip,
they
AI
have
models.
We need the science establishment to be pushing that, and not just us pushing it from the outside and like getting them to reluctantly adopt new methods.
Right.
And the science is there. The science is there.
The argument that proponents make is not, be nicer to mice or whatever. It's that these technologies can give us more human relevant data than a beagle or a monkey ever could. We knew that. We also knew that veggie burgers were really good 10 years ago.
Yeah. And we also knew that it's fine to be nice to mice. They're lovely little animals. And nothing wrong with saying that.
But I do think that this reframe, especially in an outlet like this, does change everything, because suddenly the choice isn't compassion versus cures. It's better science versus, I don't know, inertia. But in fairness, the counter argument, medical researchers and biotech investors warn that if we cut animal models too fast before the alternatives can replicate, blah, 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 before they can replicate these multi-organ living systems, could slow down treatments people are waiting on. It is a debate. But notice
maybe that means that you should have gotten on board a long time ago and you didn't. So whose fault is this?
But notice where the debate is now. It's not, it's not should we move past animal testing. It's how fast can we get there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a really different place than where we started. Okay, so let's sort of zoom out because these are 3 stories, but I think they're one story. It's a pork industry power grab, dies in committee, 2,000 beagles walk out of a lab. The federal research establishment starts unwinding animal testing. And in all of these stories, the winning coalition was bigger than our usual us.
Yeah.
So I don't trust this administration as far as I could, throw my coffee at them, but I'm not going to because I need my coffee. But some of what's happening on the right is opportunism. Some of it is animal nationalism, and some of it is maybe genuine care showing up in a place that we didn't expect it. Strange bedfellows. But our job as animal protection advocates isn't to hand the animals over to whoever's polling on them this week, right? It's to make sure that, I hate the word compassion, but compassion for animals doesn't belong to a party.
You're the only person in the world who hates the word compassion.
Well, but yet I'm not the only person who agrees with us on animal testing because 85% of this country agrees with us on animal testing.
Yeah.
Eight in 10
Yeah.
agree on farm animal cruelty. I mean, I don't know if this is stealing it back from the right. I think it's stealing it back from irrelevance. And yes, we all know that because we listen to our hen house and that means you care about animals deeply. But
Well,
it's
I think
not
it's
our
stealing it back
message
from
that's
the
shifting. It's not our message that's shifting. It's our message has somehow penetrated the
yeah.
mainstream and that message is shifting.
But interestingly, as you pointed out, the way it has penetrated the mainstream is starting on the right, and the left better wake up.
Totally. I love it. Oh, so before we get off the subject of policy and law, you have the animal law podcast coming up next week,
Right.
right? So tell us
Right.
about it. What to expect.
Well, I mean, it's not unusual because I've interviewed DXE activists before, but this is very early stage in Taj Uppal's trial, or prosecution. We don't know whether there will be a trial at this point. And he is one of the activists who was arrested in a DXE effort over a year ago, rescuing goats from a Whole Foods supplying goat farm in California. They tried heroically to get action before they went in and took the goats, and then they did come in and take the goats, and now a year later they're being prosecuted, and there's some very interesting legal issues, and also he's a very interesting guy. If you see if check out his Substack, he's very young. I mean, it's easy for me to say that because I think everybody's very young, but he actually is very young. He's only been out of law school for a couple of years. His parents are he writes so movingly about his parents who are just devastated by the fact that their son is like being charged with felonies and has done this. And he was, a very successful law student. He also writes about his religion, Sikhism, which I don't know. Is it Sikhism? I think is better pronunciation. I don't know that we've ever interviewed anybody who's, at least in part, their ethics and their worldview comes from the Sikh religion. So I want to get into that a little bit, even though it's not really a legal issue. I'm looking forward to the interview.
I'm looking forward to it too. You've been really on fire lately with the Animal Law podcast, and it's exciting to hear, especially given all of the stories that we covered today and all of the stories that are coming up in the world of animal law. Okay, I have a shameless plug before we end. And by the way, did I miss any articles?
Well, we were going to mention, I don't think we have to spend a lot of time on it, but just an update on what's going on in the Nonhuman Rights Project.
Okay, why don't
Uh,
you do that and I will then give my shameless plug.
they lost their case in Michigan, which was about chimpanzees, a bunch of chimpanzees in some pathetic zoo in Wallace, Michigan, the DeYoung Family Zoo. And the Michigan Supreme Court in July declined to hear the case, which left the lower court rulings dismissing their case intact. But there was a lovely dissent in the when the Michigan Supreme Court declined to take the case. One of the judges dissented and wanted to take the case, Justice Elizabeth Welch, and she questioned whether legal frameworks should evolve with modern scientific insights into animal cognition and emotion. I just like the way that when they're bringing these cases, they may lose, but they're capturing a few hearts and minds in the process, which is sometimes all you can hope for. Because these are very, these are huge cases, and it would mean a lot to courts to like do something so dramatic. And most courts, are not that interested in being dramatic. They are seeking a rehearing in that, or reconsideration. In that case, I think it would be very unusual for a Supreme Court to reconsider its declining to take up a case, but you never know. And there's also a state court in where the highest court did accept the case, this time about elephants, is Hawaii. And that'll be coming up in November. They'll be arguing the case of a number of elephants in a zoo, the Honolulu Zoo. It's Mari and Veigai are the names of the elephants. They're trying to get them transferred to a sanctuary, and that'll come up in November. So that's something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to and something we will stay on top of. Um, so here's my shameless plug. I was interviewed by a podcast called the Animal Liberation Hour, and it came out this past week. So we will link to it for those of you who are interested in. Actually, we do talk about the word compassion in it toward the beginning, in fact, and we talk about a lot of the way I think that animal activism has shifted over the years, as well as the importance of storytelling and putting a narrative into advocacy, whether that's a person's narrative or an animal's narrative or some blend of both. So we'll link to that in
I
the
guess
show
I
notes.
should say that if I wasn't clear, you don't hate compassion itself. You
No.
just don't like the word. In case people are now thinking, what is she, a psychopath?
I use it. I do use it because I see that it does check a box.
Yeah.
But I just think I sometimes when I'm doing my writing coaching, I encourage people, if I see that they're using the same word over and over, whether it's compassion or kindness, I will, as an activity, encourage them to rewrite that paragraph or that page without once saying that word. Because I think it's important to really get in touch with the meaning behind it. What are you holding up right now?
I have one announcement. It's a book. It's called Penelope, A Love Story. It's by Paul Bachner. This is one of those books that I haven't read. I haven't read it yet. I'm not sure I'm going to read it because books about animals just break my heart too frequently. Though this is not, I'm not saying this is a sad book. I just think it's probably deeply, deeply moving. And it's about this guy. I think he lived in, well, upstate New York, but not very far upstate. And this very broken baby deer showed up in his life, and they formed a relationship, and the relationship has lasted, I think, a long time, and I'm sure it's beautiful, and I'm just, but it takes a lot for me to read a book about that's very moving about animals. But I highly recommend it to you all. I don't know whether Paul is vegan, but he should be. I know that, and he might be. He might be. I just don't know.
We will link to it. It does look really good. I was flipping through it, and I think
he's a good writer too. I did read. I read the first chapter just to see, whether I wanted to recommend it, and he's a good writer. It's very moving.
All right, we will link to the book Penelope in the show notes, and I think that's about it for us. Don't forget that Rising Anxieties comes out on Tuesday. The Hen Report, that's this, on Thursdays. The long form interview on Fridays. Bonus content for Flock members comes out on Mondays. Next week is the monthly Animal Law podcast as well. So don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you listen or watch, and leave a comment. We do love those comments. And we will talk to you tomorrow.